The story takes place on December 11, 2020 in the quiet suburban neighborhood of Maplewood, America. Aisha Khan, a devoted Muslim wife. At 28, she balanced the expectations of her cultural background with the realities of her everyday life. The neighborhood was a mix of different cultures and beliefs, making Aisha feel torn between her traditional upbringing and the modern American lifestyle around her. Aisha had married Imran Khan 3 years ago. He was kind and supportive, always working hard at his job in a tech company to provide for their home. Imran's love for Aisha showed in small ways, like his warm smiles when he came home and how he encouraged her to try new recipes in the kitchen. However, despite his caring nature, Aisha often felt lonely. Imran's long hours at work left little time for them to connect on a deeper level. Things changed when Aisha's brother-in-law, Omar Khan, moved back in with them after a tough breakup. Omar, in his early 30s, was lively and charming. His presence brought excitement to their home, filling it with laughter and energy that Aisha had been missing. He had a gift for making people feel comfortable, and his humor often lifted everyone's spirits. However, he was also dealing with his own heartbreak, making him vulnerable and in need of support. Aisha Khan sat on the edge of her neatly made bed, soft sunlight streaming through the sheer curtains. While the world outside buzzed with life, Aisha felt incredibly lonely in her own home. In her late 20s, she had always dreamed of a joyful marriage full of laughter and shared dreams, but things had turned out differently. As time passed, her happiness faded, leaving a growing emptiness in their suburban American home. Her husband, Imran, was a good man, kind and devoted. He worked hard to provide for their family, often taking extra shifts to ensure they lived comfortably. However, with him working so much, Aisha felt more alone than ever. Their conversations had shifted from warm and loving to polite talks about chores and bills, leaving no room for deeper emotional connections. Imran's dedication to his job, while commendable, created a distance between them. Aisha longed for intimate moments, like late-night talks, shared dreams, and the comfort of being held close. But whenever she reached out to him, hoping to connect, he seemed lost in his own worries. As the days turned into weeks, Aisha retreated into her own thoughts, and her loneliness grew stronger. She often watched other women in her neighborhood, mothers who met at parks and coffee shops, laughing and sharing stories. She felt a pang of envy, realizing she had become an outsider in her own community, trapped in a marriage that felt increasingly solitary. It was during one of these lonely moments that her brother-in-law, Omar Khan, entered her life. Having just gone through a rough breakup, Omar was looking for comfort and family, and Aisha welcomed the distraction. At first, their time together was innocent, sharing meals, chatting, and reminiscing about childhood. But when they spent more time together, Aisha found in Omar a listener who didn't judge her. He understood her struggles and the weight of her unfulfilled dreams. With him, she felt free to be herself, away from the pressures of her marriage. Their friendship blossomed during the evenings when Imran was at work. Omar would come over to watch movies, share meals, or just talk. He brought a lightness that Aisha had been missing, filling her home with laughter. As they grew closer, the lines between friendship and something deeper began to blur. Aisha confided in him about her feelings of isolation and her desire for intimacy. Omar listened with empathy, validating her feelings and experiences. In these vulnerable moments, Aisha realized her feelings for Omar were deepening. He became more than just a brother-in-law. He was a source of comfort and emotional connection that she desperately needed. Yet, with this growing bond came guilt. She loved Imran, but her heart ached for the connection that seemed lost in her marriage. Torn between loyalty to Imran and her feelings for Omar, Aisha found herself at a crossroads, unsure of what to do but feeling a strong pull toward Omar that was becoming harder to ignore. As she navigated her emotions, Aisha felt the weight of her choices pressing down on her. Each secret glance and shared laugh with Omar brought both warmth and fear. She was stepping into unknown territory, where the risk of losing everything she cherished loomed large. Still, she couldn't resist chasing the fleeting moments of happiness that Omar brought into her life. As summer warmed the suburban neighborhood, Aisha Khan found herself increasingly drawn to her brother-in-law, Omar. With Imran working late hours, she spent more time with Omar, who had moved back in after a tough breakup. Initially, their interactions were casual, sharing meals, discussing family matters, and reminiscing about their childhood together. Yet, the emotional connection blossomed silently. At first, Aisha appreciated Omar's company as a distraction from her daily life, where the demands of marriage often felt suffocating. He listened attentively to her stories about life, love, and the struggles she faced as a Muslim wife, trying to uphold family traditions while yearning for her own identity. Omar would share tales of his adventures and dreams, his passion igniting something in Aisha that had long been dormant. As they laughed over shared memories, a spark ignited between them, a subtle tension that neither acknowledged but both felt. The more time they spent together, the more Aisha admired Omar's charisma and the warmth he exuded. He made her feel seen in a way that Imran had not for years. She found herself stealing glances at him during family dinners, her heart racing when their eyes met. The turning point came during a family gathering to celebrate Eid. The house was filled with the sounds of laughter, the aroma of delicious food, and the chatter of relatives. While the others enjoyed the festivities, Aisha and Omar found themselves retreating to the backyard, where the evening sky transitioned into a canvas of stars. They sat on the porch swaying gently, surrounded by the scent of blooming jasmine. The laughter from inside faded into the background, leaving just the two of them in a bubble of intimacy. Aisha felt a rush of vulnerability wash over her as she spoke about her feelings of isolation, sharing her struggles with the expectations placed upon her as a wife. Omar listened intently, his gaze never leaving her face. He shared his own experiences of heartache and disappointment, revealing a softer side that Aisha had never seen before. In that moment, the distance between them shrank and the lines blurred. "I feel trapped sometimes," Aisha confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "Like I'm expected to be someone I'm not." Omar turned to her, his eyes filled with understanding. "You're not alone, Aisha. I see you really see you. You deserve to be happy." Aisha's heart raced as she realized how close they were, their knees almost touching. In a moment of impulse, Omar reached out, brushing a stray hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering on her cheek. The warmth of his touch sent a shiver down her spine, and before she knew it, they were leaning in, their lips brushing together in a hesitant kiss. The world around them faded away, leaving only the intoxicating sensation of each other's presence. After that fateful kiss, Aisha and Omar found themselves entangled in a whirlwind of emotions. They began to meet in secret, stealing moments whenever they could. The thrill of their hidden relationship was intoxicating yet fraught with danger. They would exchange flirtatious texts when Imran was at work, and they became adept at finding excuses to be alone together. They took long walks in the nearby park, where they would steal kisses under the shade of trees, their laughter blending with the rustling leaves. In those moments, Aisha felt liberated, experiencing a side of herself she thought was lost forever. Yet, with every stolen moment came the weight of guilt for betraying Imran, and for straying from the values she held dear. In the shadows of her heart, Aisha knew they were playing with fire, and each secret rendezvous only deepened the bond between her and Omar. The thrill of their affair was matched only by the fear of discovery. Aisha constantly worried about the consequences, but the connection they shared felt too powerful to resist. As weeks turned into months, Aisha found herself at a crossroads, torn between her duties as a wife and her desires for love and passion. Little did she know, the choices they made in secrecy would lead to devastating consequences that none of them could foresee. As the weeks passed, Aisha's world began to unravel with the weight of her secret. The thrill of her affair with Omar quickly morphed into a heavy burden as she realized she was pregnant. The moment she saw the 2 pink lines on the pregnancy test, a wave of panic washed over her, drowning out the fleeting happiness she had felt in Omar's arms. She sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the test in disbelief, her heart racing. What would she do? The fear gripped her like a vice. The implications of a pregnancy outside her marriage were unthinkable. She felt suffocated by the enormity of her situation, knowing that if she confided in Imran, it could shatter their family and bring shame upon them in their tightly knit community. Aisha's heart was a battlefield, torn between the love she felt for her husband and the intoxicating passion she shared with Omar. Each time she looked at Imran, who was blissfully unaware of her turmoil, guilt gnawed at her conscience. She could feel her heart breaking every time she caught his trusting gaze, filled with love and admiration for the life they had built together. Days turned into sleepless nights as Aisha wrestled with her emotions. She would lie awake, replaying moments with both men. With Imran, she felt a sense of comfort and security, yet it was Omar who ignited a fire in her that she had never known. The intimacy they shared was thrilling, but it came at a devastating cost. She knew she had to make a choice soon, but every option felt like a betrayal. Overwhelmed, Aisha sought solace in her best friend, Fatima, who had been a constant source of support throughout their friendship. They met at a local cafe, the comforting aroma of coffee mingling with the chatter around them, but had no comfort in her surroundings. She felt like an imposter, hiding behind a facade of normalcy. Aisha, what's wrong? You look pale, Fatima remarked, concern etched on her face as they settled into a quiet corner. Aisha hesitated, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew she had to confide in Fatima to unburden herself of the secret that was consuming her. With trembling hands, she finally revealed everything: the affair, the pregnancy, her fears about the future. As she spoke, tears streamed down her cheeks, each word laced with shame and desperation. Fatima listened intently, her expression shifting from shock to sympathy. Oh, Aisha, this is so complicated. Have you thought about what you want to do? I don't know, Aisha cried, feeling the weight of her choices closing in on her. I can't bear to hurt Imran. He loves me, and I love him. But how can I raise this child knowing it's not his? And Omar, he wants me to leave everything behind and start anew. Fatima took a deep breath, her gaze steady. You need to come clean, Aisha. It's not just about you anymore. You're carrying a life inside you. But I can't lie, this will change everything. You could lose your husband, your family, the community will talk. Aisha felt a pang of despair at Fatima's words. She had known the risks, but hearing them laid out so starkly made them all the more real. What if they don't forgive me? What if they never look at me the same way again? Fatima reached across the table, squeezing Aisha's hand. You can't hide forever. The truth will come out eventually. It's better to face it now than live in fear. As they parted ways, Aisha's heart was heavy with the burden of her choices. The thought of confessing to Imran filled her with dread. She couldn't shake the image of his hurt and betrayal, the way he would look at her with disbelief and sorrow. But the alternative, continuing this charade, felt increasingly impossible. She was trapped in a cycle of guilt and fear, and with each passing day, she knew the walls were closing in. With the weight of her secret pressing down on her, Aisha found herself at a crossroads, her mind racing with conflicting thoughts and emotions. The consequences of her affair were not just about her own happiness anymore. They would affect everyone she loved. As the reality of Aisha's pregnancy sinks in, she finds herself engulfed in a storm of emotions, fear, guilt, and confusion swirling within her like a tempest. The weight of her secret affair with Omar becomes unbearable, and she grapples with the profound implications of bringing a child into the world under such circumstances. Sitting alone in the quiet of her bedroom one evening, Aisha stares at the reflection in the mirror, her hands resting protectively over her growing belly. Thoughts race through her mind, each one heavier than the last. What will my family think? She wonders. How can I raise a child knowing its father isn't my husband? What would God say? Her heart is heavy with the cultural and religious burdens that feel impossibly daunting. Aisha knows that in her community, the stigma of being an unwed mother is severe, and the repercussions of her choices could shatter her family's reputation. She recalls the teachings of her faith, emphasizing the importance of honor and the family unit. Feelings of despair sinking deeper into her heart. What if I choose to keep the baby? She thinks, can I face the judgment? Can I face Imran? In the following days, Aisha finds herself caught in a whirlwind of uncertainty. Omar, sensing her distress, becomes more insistent about their future. He approaches her one evening, his expression serious, a stark contrast to the playful banter they once shared. Aisha, we can't keep living like this, he says, his voice low. You need to think about what's best for both of us. If we truly love each other, we can't hide anymore. We should run away together. Aisha's heart races at his words, a mixture of excitement and dread washing over her. The thought of escaping her life, of leaving behind her marriage and responsibilities, tempts her. But then reality crashes down. She can't imagine abandoning Imran, who, despite his obliviousness, loves her deeply. Omar, I can't, she whispers, tears welling in her eyes. What about the baby? I don't know what to do. Omar's expression shifts, frustration evident. You're only thinking of Imran and what others will say. What about us, Aisha? What about what we want? He steps closer, his intensity palpable, and Aisha feels a surge of conflicting emotions. She is drawn to him, yet terrified of the path he suggests. Meanwhile, Imran's suspicions begin to stir. He notices the subtle changes in Aisha, her distracted demeanor, the way she flinches at his touch, and the late-night phone calls that she hastily ends when he walks into the room. Is everything all right, Aisha? He asks one evening, concern etching his features. You seem distant lately. Aisha forces a smile, but inside her heart races with fear. I'm just tired, Imran. It's been a long week, she lies, but the truth gnaws at her like a relentless predator. Imran studies her for a moment, his brows furrowing in concern, and for a brief second, Aisha fears he might uncover her secret. As the days progress, the tension between Aisha and Omar grows. Each conversation feels heavier, each stolen moment fraught with the awareness of their precarious situation. Aisha finds herself at a crossroads, teetering on the edge of a decision that could alter her life forever. One afternoon, as she sits alone in the park, she feels the weight of the world on her shoulders. She watches children play, laughing and carefree, and feels a pang of longing. Could I really bring a child into this chaos? she wonders. The thought of abortion crosses her mind, a chilling option that sends shivers down her spine. But what if I regret it? Aisha's phone buzzes beside her, a message from Omar flashing on the screen. We need to talk. This can't go on. Her heart races, a mix of anxiety and anticipation. She knows that whatever decision she makes will reverberate through her life and those around her, drawing closer to the inevitable confrontation that looms ahead. As she heads home, the gravity of her situation presses down on her, leaving her feeling suffocated and alone. The tension between her obligations and desires has reached a breaking point, and Aisha knows that the next choice she makes could change everything, not only for herself, but for everyone she loves. Aisha sat alone in her dimly lit bedroom, feeling overwhelmed by her thoughts. The weight of her pregnancy loomed heavy over her, mixing with the guilt and fear that had been growing inside her. She knew she had to talk to Omar. The uncertainty of their relationship had become unbearable. When Omar arrived, the usual warmth between them felt strained. They sat at the small dining table, remnants of dinner untouched. Aisha could feel the tension in the air. Omar, we need to talk about us, Aisha said, her voice shaking. I can't keep pretending everything is fine. Omar looked at her, his brow furrowed. What do you mean? You've been acting distant lately. Aisha took a deep breath. I am pregnant, Omar. This isn't just a fling and all. We have real consequences to deal with. Shock crossed Omar's face. Pregnant? Why didn't you tell me sooner? I was scared. Aisha replied, her voice rising. Scared of what this means for my family and for us. I can't just leave Imran. He doesn't deserve this. But I can't ignore what we've done either. Then what do you want? Omar asked, his frustration evident. Do you want me to just walk away? To pretend this never happened? No, I don't want to lose you, but I can't bear the thought of ruining my life and my family's, Aisha cried. Imran loves me. How can I betray him like this? Omar stood up, his frustration boiling over. So what? We just end it? You think that's fair to me? I can't just forget you, Aisha. You're everything I've wanted, but you're too afraid to take the leap. Aisha felt overwhelmed. The walls felt like they were closing in on her. What do you want me to do? Just run away with you. Leave everything behind? Yes, Omar replied passionately. We could start fresh, away from all this. No more secrets, no more lies. The thought was tempting, but also terrifying. Aisha shook her head. What about the baby? What if it's a girl? What if she grows up without knowing her father? Then let's raise her together, Omar pleaded, stepping closer. We can make it work, Aisha. Just say the word. Aisha's heart raced as she considered Omar's words. She was torn between the idea of freedom with him and the reality of her life with Imran. The fear of judgment from her community weighed heavily on her. She felt suffocated by expectations. Suddenly, in a moment of desperation, Aisha made a choice. The idea of running away felt intertwined with the pressure to conform and the fear of losing everything. She looked into Omar's eyes, and something inside her broke. No, Omar, Aisha exclaimed, her voice trembling. I can't. I won't. I can't live like this anymore. I can't bear the guilt of tearing my family apart or bringing a child into a life built on lies. I can't do it. Omar's face fell, hurt, flashing across his features. So that's it? You're choosing him over me? I'm choosing what's right, Aisha shouted back, her heart aching. I can't destroy my life for a moment of passion. Silence fell between them, heavy and suffocating. Aisha's heart raced as she realized the magnitude of her choice. She felt as though the ground had fallen away beneath her, leaving her with nothing but regret and the harsh reality of her situation. As Omar turned to leave, a cold emptiness filled Aisha's chest. In that moment, she felt she had lost not just Omar, but also a piece of herself. The weight of her decision was crushing, and she was left feeling more alone than ever. In the quiet that followed, Aisha faced the unbearable truth of her situation, a choice that would change her life forever. Guilt twisted inside her, leaving her teetering on the edge of despair. The sun had set, casting long shadows over the quiet suburban streets of their American neighborhood. Inside the Khan household, the atmosphere was thick with sadness. Aisha sat alone in her dimly lit bedroom, feeling lost. The weight of her secret, her affair with Omar, the pregnancy, and the turmoil that followed felt unbearable. As she looked around the room, memories flooded her mind, the laughter with Imran, her husband, and the dreams they once shared. But now, all she felt was guilt and hopelessness. Aisha was overwhelmed by the life growing inside her, a constant reminder of her betrayal. Each day was a struggle, and the thought of facing Imran, the man who loved and trusted her, seemed impossible. Thoughts of running away with Omar swirled in her mind, tempting but terrifying. Aisha knew that leaving wouldn't erase the pain she had caused. She felt trapped between her longing for freedom and the cultural values that held her captive. In that moment of despair, Aisha made a tragic decision. She picked up her phone, typed a message to Imran, expressing her love and sorrow, but couldn't bring herself to send it. Instead, tears streamed down her face as she turned away. Later that night, as the house lay in silence, Aisha slipped into the bathroom. She filled the tub with water, feeling a mix of fear and resolve. This would be her escape from the pain. As she submerged herself, her thoughts drifted to her loved ones, Imran, Omar, her family, and sadness washed over her. They would never understand the struggle she had faced. The next morning, the news of Aisha's death shocked everyone. Imran woke up to find his wife missing, and panic filled his heart. When he found her in the bathroom, his world shattered. The grief was overwhelming, a mix of confusion and despair. How could this have happened? How could he have missed her pain? Omar was equally devastated. He never meant for things to end like this. Guilt consumed him as he replayed every moment they shared, wondering if he could have changed anything. Aisha's death left a deep void in his heart, and he felt like he had lost not only a sister-in-law, but a dear friend. The community reacted swiftly. Whispers spread about Aisha's affair and her tragic death. Some expressed sympathy, but many judged her harshly. The cultural stigma surrounding infidelity in their Muslim community intensified the pain. Families began to distance themselves from the Khans, fearing the scandal would affect their own reputations. In the days that followed, Aisha's family struggled to cope with their loss. Imran became withdrawn, replaying their last moments together in his mind. Friends and family reached out, but he felt alone in his grief. Omar wrestled with guilt, haunted by thoughts of how things might have been different. Both men realized too late the importance of communication and support in difficult times. As the community mourned, conversations about mental health slowly began to surface. Aisha's tragic death served as a painful reminder of the struggles many faced, especially within the constraints of cultural expectations. While this opened a door to discussions about emotional well-being, Imran and Omar were left to navigate a world forever changed by Aisha's heartbreaking choice.